Am I the a-hole for using some of my stepson's camp savings to buy a replacement sneakers for my son? My son Chris's 16th birthday was weeks ago. His mom, my ex-wife, couldn't be with him due to work, but sent him a pair of Adidas sneakers as his birthday gift. Chris is a runner, and he enjoys running every day as a way to relieve stress and anxiety. My stepson Jake 17 saw the sneakers and said they looked like the ones his favorite artist Kane Brown was wearing in Famous Friends music video, and so he got so hung up on them. Always asking Chris to see them and try them on. Chris let him see them, but not wear them because Jake has bigger feet and he was worried he might ruin them. Jake wanted to wear the sneakers in front of his friends, but Chris didn't let him leave the house with them. Jake ended up sneaking out with them a couple of times, which made Chris hide them from him since he kept taking them without permission. Jake was no longer able to sneak out wearing the sneakers and begged Chris to let him wear them out one last time in a party his friends had. Chris said no, and Jake somehow was able to locate the sneakers, but instead of going out with them, he cut them with hand pruner and kept them in his room while Chris and I looked for them till his mom found them. Chris saw the damage and was upset. I grounded Jake and promised Chris to get a replacement, but when his mom called to tell me those sneakers are worth $600 and had to be replaced, I was in utter shock. I saw the recipient, and even then I couldn't believe it because $600 is way more than I can afford. Chris's mom is a cardiologist, she can afford this stuff, but I obviously can't. I was fuming. I let Jake know how much he messed up and told him I will be replacing the sneakers using the money he saved for his week-long summer camp. Jake had a meltdown and said he was already punished and it wasn't fair to punish him further. My wife thought I exaggerated and talked about how important summer camp is for Jake as he's been waiting for it for months. I let her know that Chris's mom is rightfully upset her gift for him got ruined, and because Jake acted out of spite and maliciousness, then it's only fair he'd pay for replacement. My wife assured me if Jake knew those sneakers were that expensive he would have never ever touched them, but thought Chris wasn't letting him borrow them on purpose. What's done is done, and I made my decision final. Both my wife and Jake are giving me the silent treatment and refusing to talk about it. My wife thinks it's crazy to spend $600 on new sneakers. I agree, but those aren't mine, so needed replacement. So am I the a-hole? This? Right. Here. He knew they were expensive, why else would he want to wear them out? Kids and young adults know shoes. They are a big deal right now. Social status symbols, if you will. Just because Op was oblivious to the value doesn't mean the 17-year-old was showing them off. Without a doubt. And when that was denied, he took revenge. He is a ruined kid that will be a horrible adult. He knew what he was doing. If this was my family and I did that, I wouldn't be going to the camp, period. Ruin something for someone else, get your stuff ruined also. A 17-year-old family member received a pair of Balenciagas SP as a gift recently, and all of his friends knew exactly what they were. This was so frustrating to read through. Good luck, Op. I work as a teacher at a youth detention center. In their off time, after their school assignments are finished, the boys I teach will look up sneakers on the internet and tell me this is the pair I want to buy when I'm on the free. The shoes they look up are worth more than I pay in rent in a month. Teenage boys are just as likely as teenage girls to have clothing envy, and they will look things up to see if they can afford something similar. Maybe out of the box, Jake didn't know the cost, but he probably looked up the cost either by the brand or by tracking down Kane Brown music video shoes on the internet. Kids have a hard time doing research papers, but they are darn good internet sleuths when they want to find something they like. Look, everyone is getting hung up on whether or not Jake knew the price, and honestly it doesn't matter. He did, but it doesn't matter. That's some bullshit excuse your wife is giving merely to protect her son from experiencing consequences for his deeply troubling actions. Let me reframe for you. This almost adult man with large feet, so presumably a tall, physically imposing figure, was told repeatedly that he couldn't use something that didn't belong to him. He consistently and repeatedly ignored the no he was being told and went to go find the item that he was fully aware was being hidden from him specifically. Then when he was told no enough times, he lost his temper, went and found garden shears, and proceeded to, fully maliciously and intentionally, cut up and destroy the thing he was being told he couldn't have. How do you let him anywhere near girls? Swap out girl for shoes, and let's be honest here, Would it be that hard for Jake to view as totally different things? And this reads like the overview of a stalking turned rape and murder. There are much more significant issues here than just whether or not Jake knew the shoes he maliciously cut up were expensive. Think about it. Most normal people can maybe do a single really bad thing out of raging spite before their conscience takes over. The first cut should have been enough to snap him out of it and make him realize it was a mistake. He had enough blinding, malicious rage that he got through mangling 2 entire shoes. It would have been hard work. It's not an accident, and it's a huge behavior. NTA. My wife assured me if Jake knew those sneakers were that expensive he would have never ever touched them. Yeah, no. And 1. He likes them because they looked expensive. 2. It's really no excuse. And 3. He likened them to designer Kane Brown shoes, meaning he knows they're not generic Sneaker Depot knockoffs. My wife thinks it's crazy to spend $600 on new sneakers. I agree, but those aren't mine, so needed replacement. How do you avoid spending $600 on sneakers? You don't destroy them out of jealousy. And in fairness, you aren't spending it. Knobgoblin Jake is. Make Jake learn that actions have consequences, no matter what he thinks he's entitled to. That's life. He's old enough to learn that lesson. Hell, he's old enough that he and your wife, apparently, should have learned that already. Even if they were his brother's clearance drugstore house slippers, he shouldn't have taken them, and he shouldn't have cut them up with hand pruners. Like, seriously, what? And Jake is 17, is he not? Older than Chris? And also, more than old enough to understand that people don't have to share. This isn't a kindergarten class Tonka toy box. He's gotta suck it up. His stepbro has a more than average wealthy mom and he doesn't, and that's life. Maybe he should trade the pruners for a scalpel, go pre-med, and eventually he'll be able to fill a custom walk-in closet with sneaks. Plus Chris did share the sneakers, even though they don't even fit Jake properly. And he stole them, then purposefully destroyed them because he couldn't have them whenever he felt like. Your wife and Jake need a reality check. Jake needs to get a job, not to go to camp. He sounds like a spoiled brat. He sounds like he's at that asshole teenager stage where he sees other people having things he wants and thinks he should also have them too. That's not entirely his fault, of course. A lot of kids go through that asshole phase where they don't get why they can't have iPad Pros and iPhone 12s and Yeezys like their friends do, and they don't get why those things aren't just handed to them. But he needs to take a ride on the Clue bus ASAP. It was one thing to borrow the shoes, even though his stepbrother told him not to, and he knew he was damaging them by borrowing them. That was bad enough. But to deliberately wreck them? The kid is 17, not 7. He's too old to get away with that shit. If he'd vandalized school property to the tune of $600 or did a similar shitty stunt to someone besides his stepbrother, he'd be picking up garbage by the side of the road for the rest of the summer, and there wouldn't even be a question about whether he'd get to go to camp. He needs to face consequences. If he got a job, it would solve a lot of problems. 1. It would teach him how money is tied to labor. 2. It would give him the autonomy to choose his own purchases and not rely on the largesse of his parents. After he earns $600, he can decide for himself whether he wants to spend it all on Yeezys or if he has better ways to use that money. 3. It would give him a productive way to spend his summer and get him out of this. What are you or your current wife going to do when Chis's mom buys him a car and he tells Jake he is not allowed in it, let alone allowed to drive it, and he damages it? What if mom buys him a Lamborghini or Ferrari, BMW? If you can't afford to replace $600 shoes, how will you afford to fix a car like that? And it would be current wife's and your responsibility to do so since Jake is a minor. Not to mention, these are criminal acts, shoes or not. Once you hit a certain dollar amount in damage, it becomes a felony. That means losing the right to vote, own a firearm, get a good job. Since current wife is so butthurt, you may want to sit down with just her and Jake with your state laws or regarding property damage. Explain to them ex-wife can press charges against Jake. She is well within her rights to do so. Show them the state's punishment for the sneakers. Show them the price point it becomes a felony and what the punishment would be, and that's the problem. Jake gets jealous, and it seems that your wife does too, because she wants Chris to share his stuff. According to your post, she was even upset that Chris didn't let Jake borrow his things. There are 2 jealous people in your house. My brother got a PS5 a while after it came out, which was a miracle considering scalpers and bots were scooping up the consoles as soon as they were being launched. I was never jealous. He bragged about his console and told me I could brag too about it if I wanted. I didn't. He said I could use it. I thanked him, but I used it only once. It was one of the hottest items of the year, and I wasn't jealous. It's very simple to not be a complete dickhead to another person.